To all. So, dear participant, and yes, so good morning, dear participants. We are in the third day training classes. We are present here for the Dr. Vishwanathan Remembrance free coaching training classes. And today we have a good resource person, Miss T. Ajita, who was one of my student, and also Dr. Vishwanathan. So, and she has remarkable academic success, and she has excelled by cracking the NET examination twice, both times in her first two attempts. Her determination and consistent effort have been truly inspiring. And currently, she actively involved in our training academy in Madurai, where she continues exceptional skills and dedication. This academy has been instrumental in nurturing talent, and Ajita's success serves as example of its impact. So she is not only a treatment of quality of our training, but also inspiration to her peer and candidates. And on behalf of our organizing committee, I thank and congratulate to Ms. Ajita, and I hand over sessions to Ms. Ajita.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And it's my privilege and pleasure to be part of this free UGC NET coaching class on the remembrance of Dr. R. Vishwanathan, sir. He is our faculty, and it is a very pleasure to be here. And very good morning, students. And here, I hope you are being aware of these UGC NET and what is the pattern, syllabus, and all those things. Sorry. So today we'll discuss about the topic communication. So I hope this is a well-known topic, and the syllabus given here is communication, meanings, types, characteristics of communication, effective communication, verbal, non-verbal, intercultural, group communication, classroom communication, barriers to effective communication, mass media, and society. So the syllabus is very minimal, but this is just a glimpse of the syllabus. So since the difficulty and the competition have increased, so the questions will not merely be from this topics alone. So it is beyond these topics. So we'll discuss in the upcoming slides. So to begin, communication. So what is a communication? This term, it has been taken from the Latin language, communicare or communis. So which means to share or to make common. So basically we know communication is something what we share. So when two persons, they speak or they have a conversation, so that is called communication in typical meaning. So the person who initiates a communication is called as a sender, and the person who receives the information is called as the receiver. So this communication, it can happen between two people or a group of people, or it can be a face-to-face or indirect communication. Any type of communication is possible. And for a communication, what are all the things is required is basically a sender, a receiver. Two people is necessary, and a thought, information which is being shared. So that is also very important. So that information can be a value, a thought, an emotion, a belief, any kind of thing which a person wants to share to the another person is called as a message. And this process of conveying the message is called as communication. For better understanding, now take this class. So now we are communicating between us. So I am the sender. I wish to send an information about this communication, how to make you understand what is communication. So that is the message what I am conveying here to you people. You are all the receivers. So this is what a communication is. I hope you have understood this. And the elements of communication. So here question will be asked as arrange the orders of these elements of communication. So you must remember the order of this communication. So here first, initially for any communication, a sender is very, very important. He or she is the person who initiates a communication. And that encoding is something where a thought which happens inside a person's mind. So that thought is being converted into a message. So for example, now we are taking this class. So what is happening here? I am the sender, and in my mind, I will think how to convey this message, how to convey the elements of communication to you people. So that is what the process happening in my mind. So that a process which is happening in my mind, converting my thoughts into a message, into a word. That is called encoding, which is happening inside my mind. A thought is being converted into a message. That is encoding and a message. So here the elements of communication is the message, which is being shared to you people through a channel. So here a communication is happening through the Zoom meet. So here our communications channel is Zoom meet, and the receiver, you people, you will receive the message from me and you will decode it in your mind. Decoding is something where you convert the message into the thought. So the encoding is converting thoughts into a message. So the similar process in a reverse way, if it happens in the receiver's mind, converting the message into a thought is called as decoding, and the receiver is also an important. And then the feedback. So now we are communicating. So the feedback is on the next slides, next upcoming slides. If I'm going to ask you some questions, if you have understood this, if this communication has been effective, you will reply me. You will give me the answers. So that kind of thing, the feedback, either it could be a positive feedback or negative feedback, or you can ask me some doubts. So all those things which comes back to me, which comes back to the receiver, from receiver to sender, that is called a feedback. And the noise, this noise, it can happen at any part of this communication. At any point of a communication, there can be a noise. So remember, it is always when it starts, it starts from a sender. That sender will encode the message, what he or she is willing to share. That message is transferred through a channel. Now our communication is transferred through the Zoom meet. It can be a call or a text or email, anything can be a channel. So that channel, and then it is being decoded by the receiver, and the receiver is there, and then the feedback occurs. It is an next step where the receiver sends back to the sender, the feedback occurs, and the noise is happening in any point of this communication. Are you clear with this? Can you proceed? Can you reply me in the chat? Is it okay? Is it clear? Can
Yes.
someone? Yes, okay. And then, so as I said before, encoding. Encoding is something, turning the thoughts into a communication is encoding. And channel, as you have seen. So the phone, text, emails, face-to-face meet, all these things comes under a channel. Noise, yes, noise with example we'll see in the further slide. I will explain you. And decoding, decoding is something what the communicated, that message is being converted into thought is decoding. So understand this. And the noise. So the noise is something which occurs at, yeah, we'll share the PPT in the Telegram group. So the noise is, here we have 4 levels of noise. It is semantic noise, source noise, channel noise, and psychological noise. Semantic noise, it is related to the language. So for a communication, basic tool is a language, right? So whenever there is an issue with the language, for example, if a person is new to a place, if or a person does not know a language, there the language will be a problem. So that is a noise, that is semantic noise. Even sometimes if a technical word or a difficult word is being used in a communication, then that will be difficult for the receiver to understand. If now I'm telling just semantic noise, and if I'm moving, people will not understand what is semantic noise, because the term is new, semantic. Few people might know the term, but most people will not be able to know the term. So that semantic, like that, if gerunds, difficult terms are being used in communication, then it will be difficult for the receiver to understand what the sender is telling. So that kind of noise is called a semantic noise. So using difficult terms in a communication or unknown terms, technical terms to a common people in a communication is called as semantic noise. Source noise. So it is very easy. So if a person, if a sender like me, if I'm having some speech issues like mumbling and stammering, so it will affect the communication. So people will not understand what I'm coming to tell. So that is called source noise. And the channel noise. So channel noise is now we are using the Zoom meet, right? So sometimes you'll have some network issues, some technical issues. So all those things, some problem, some interruption which occurs in the channel of the communication is called as channel noise. For example, this cable network and broadcast media, all those things which occurs in the disturbance which occurs in the channel is called channel noise. And psychological noise. it is within oneself, with the person. So some person will have some preconceived notation about the other people. So for example, if two people is working in an organization, so we'll have some opinion about the other people. So that opinion will affect the communication. For example, if someone is not liking the other person, if that person comes and communicates in a nice way, even people will not take it in that sense. So if someone is not liking that person, if that unliked person, if he speaks, that will not be taken in that proper sense. So that psychological things will also affect the communication. That is psychological noise. Is it clear? Can we proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So on this 7 C's of communication, and this 7 C is clear. So whenever a communication is transferred, it must be very clear and concise. Concise is a very short, as short as possible. So if you are elaborating things for more time, it will affect the communication. People will not have that interest to listen the communication. So it must be very clear, concise, and concrete. It should be to the point. It should be specific and definite communication. So whatever we are coming to tell, it should be to the point, specific, and it should be correct. So incorrect answers, or if you're not speaking that correct information to that person, then the communication will not be effective and coherent. Whenever a communication is happening, it must be in coherent way. So randomly speaking the initial information and speaking the last information, it will not give a complete information knowledge to that receiver. So it will make a confusion. So the receiver will not be able to understand the information what we are telling. So for any communication, the information must be in coherent. It should be delivered in a coherent manner, and a complete information should be given. So if now, for example, now this Zoom meet is happening. If any of this time, suppose the time is not being delivered, not being informed to you, or the date is not informed to you, the source person or the Zoom link, everything is been given, but the date and time, if it is not informed to you, then there will be an disturbance in this achieving that information, right? So such kind of things will affect the communication. So whenever we are telling a communication, it must be complete and courteous. So the communicator must have that politeness to communicate that information. So 7 C's, it is clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. So please remember all these terms. These terms can even be asked in the question. And 4 S's of effective communication. For an effective communication, the strength. So strength of for delivering a message, that message's strength must be delivered with that strength, and the sincerity for the communicator must have a sincere in an organization, some higher official, if they are communicating, they must have that sincerity to communicate to their employees the information in a correct sense. That sincerity they must have, and the simplicity, as simple as possible. As we have seen semantic noise before, if you are using like that terms, jargon terms, then it will affect the communication. So your communication must be as simple as possible and as short as possible. It must be very concise. And then characteristics, as you have seen before, all those things are the characteristics. It must be clarity of the information must be there. It must be complete, concise, coherent, and courteous. So courteous in essence being polite. So here we see the courteous or politeness. So whenever we are communicating with someone, we can't communicate in an aggressive manner. So that mannerism is needed, right? So that politeness, that concern is required. That is what courteous. And another thing you have asked me is coherent. Coherent in a sense, if for example, now see we are speaking about this communication, this topic. So the syllabus is given in some order, right? So that it will be easy for us to understand. So if we are discussing this topic as meaning of communication, and then effectiveness of effective communication, and then classroom communication, and then the lost mass media and society. If you are mixing all these topics, and if you are discussing, you people will not be able to understand. So that random way of communication will not be proper communication. Coherent is in same order in an even manner from top to bottom. Likewise, can you understand? Coherent, speaking in an orderly manner. So if a syllabus is given, they'll give some in order, in some order, so that we can understand. So that is what coherent is. And then the characteristics, as we have discussed below, it is clarity, completeness, conciseness, courteous, and correctness. So all these things are characteristics of communication. Yeah, thank you. And now we'll have a, yeah, it means continuity. Yes, correct. So here we have some questions. Oh, all these questions, what I'm discussing here is all about the previous year questions. So think and answer. The elements are related to communication in the ancient paradigm of everyday lives are. So ancient, so think about the communication about the ancient life. Either it is physiological, economical, ethical, self-realization, or ego clash. What is the
Option
correct
one,
answer?
ma'am. Option one.
Yeah, option one. Yeah, it's right. So it could be physiological, economical, ethical, self-realization. Ego clash will not happen in a communication. Yeah, you're right. And the next question. So the sender's responsibility in communication process includes, so interrupting a receiver to clarify misunderstanding immediately, ensuring the message is clear, complete, understood by the receiver, avoiding feedback from the receiver to ensure the message. Yeah, it's two.
Option
So
two.
yeah, it's correct. So the primary responsibility of a sender is they must ensure whether it is the message is clear, complete, and understood. Yeah, you're correct. So is it all okay? Shall we proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, it's right. So, and then next we are going to discuss about verbal communication. So, this verbal communication, it is the most effective part of a communication. So, people, major of this communication, which is officially, formally, people do this kind of communication. So, in an this type of communication is segregated into two: oral communication and written communication. Both these things are documented. It has been recorded that those two things can be used as an record evidence, so we can analyze these things in later part. So now we are recording this video, so it can be used in later part. So that verbal, it can be seen or used. So books, so it has been written whenever we need, we can take and we can refer that book. So all these things, verbal comes under formal, and it is official, which can be used as an evidence, which can be recorded, and it can be used in the later part of any part of life. So this is, comes under verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So this is a very vast thing. So anything which comes under a language is called as verbal. So beyond a language, for example, the posture, body language, eye contact, even blinking, tone of voice, facial expressions, smell, time, personal presentation, gesture, pitch of the tone, all these things, other than speaking a language or writing a language, everything comes under a non-verbal communication. This non-verbal communication, it is also known as para-language, which means a non-lexical communication. A non-lexical in a sense, a word which has a sound but no meaning. For example, oh, all these things we communicate in between a communication, but all these things will not have any meaning. Just a sound. We will say yes in with sounds, right? All these things are non-lexical communication. And these terms given below is very important. Just have a note, look about it. The kinesthetics. Kinesthetics in a sense, it is body language. So communication that occurs with the body language. Facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, all these things comes under kinesthetics. And proximity. So we are using some signals. For example, the traffic signals we use and the traffic symbols we use, no, all these things are non-verbal. It comes under proximity. The red means we are communicated as to stop. So that is what a way of non-verbal communication. And haptics is touching. So communication with the sense of touching is called as haptics, non-verbal communication. And chronomics. Chronomics is using time or waiting or passing in between a communication. So giving time in between a communication, passing between two phrases or passages is called as non-verbal communication. And olfactics, that is the smell. So through smell, if a communication occurs, the sometimes the canteen, all what we pass through, so the smell will communicate us what they are cooking and all those things. That type of communication is non-verbal. And the vocalist is something related to the voice, volume, speed, temper, and all those things comes under vocalist. And the silence in between a communication is also a non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication is always unofficial, it is undocumented. We can't document all these things. A body gesture, you cannot be recorded and it cannot be used as an evidence in further part of life. So this is informal and it is unofficial type of communication. So non-verbal communication. So here we'll have a question. Which of the following signifies non-verbal communication essential way? So which is non-verbal communication here? So instructions written on a question paper, learners' attention on online class, the dress code followed by an
Ma'am,
individual.
option 4.
Option 4.
Option 4, ma'am.
No, think,
Op-
think.
Option 2, ma'am.
Third one.
The dress code.
Yeah, it's three. It's three, the dress code. So the yoga instructor is teaching the yoga. So he or she will tell something with the words, right? So it is not four. And learning and learner attending an online class. In an online class, we are communicating, right? It is audio and visual. So it is not non-verbal. So it is dress code. The dress code is correct. Please don't confuse with the yoga instructor. And the next question, the attitudes, actions, and appearance in the context of classroom communication are considered as. So the attitude, action, and appearance is considered as what type of communication? Yeah, it's non-verbal. Yeah, it's non-verbal. I hope you have understood this. So we'll get back into other types of communication. Shall we proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So this kind, yeah, thank you. And this kind of communication, it happens in an organization. So an horizontal communication is also known as lateral communication. A vertical communication, in vertical, we have two types. It is downward and upward communication. And we have diagonal or crosswise communication. So horizontal or lateral communication, diagonal or crosswise communication. So we'll see in what is horizontal communication. So horizontal communication is something exchanging an information within the same level of people. So for example, in a college, there will be a hierarchy, the correspondent, the principal, and then the HODs, and then faculties, and then the students. So this will be the hierarchy in a college. For example, I'm telling college, it could be an organization, anything. So in college, this is the hierarchy. Whenever there is a conversation among same level of people, students, they are of same level of people. Head of the departments, they're all same level of people. If there is a meeting among the HODs, head of the departments of a college, then that is same level of discussion, communicating between same level of people. So that certain communication is called as horizontal. It is lateral communicating between same level of people. So if students, if they are communicating, that is called as horizontal communication. I hope you're understanding. So communicating between same level of people. So in a hierarchy, when a communication occurs between same level of people, it is called as horizontal or lateral communication. With this communication, the organization is being run effectively with the coordination and integration of this diverse units. So whenever there is an communication between the students, and then whenever there is a communication among the HODs, so that the college will excel in their academics or anything. So that kind of communication which happens is horizontal, and that will make the organization run effectively. And then vertical communication. So it is opposite to horizontal communication. So here, this can occur from top to bottom or bottom to top. So whenever communication, it occurs from the superior, from the principal to a student. If an information is being transferred from a principal to the head of the departments, and then to the faculty, and then to the student. If this is the hierarchy from top to bottom, that is superior to subordinate, then it is downward communication. So this type of communication is always about the policies, rules, and procedures which is being implemented in an administration or the organization. So that always flows from top to bottom. So always the rules and policies will be framed by the administrators, the higher hierarchy people. So when it comes from top to bottom, it is downward communication. The reverse, when it happens from down to upward, from the students to the principal. So from down to upward, it is called as upward communication. So always this type of communication will be about the report, the grievance, or the request. It has been sent from the subordinates to the superior, from the students to the principal. Whenever it goes from the lower hierarchy to the upper hierarchy, it is called as upward communication. And then diagonal communication. So it is mixing of horizontal and the vertical communication. So it is about both. So in horizontal, what we said, a communication occurs between same level of a people is horizontal. When it is happening at top to bottom or bottom to top, it is vertical. Here in diagonal, there is no different levels. So anyone can communicate with anybody. So if you have seen in this diagram, the superior person is communicating with this subordinate, the lower hierarchy people. So that kind of different levels of communication is called as diagonal. So this is a mixing of vertical and horizontal movement of communication. I hope you are clear with this. So is it okay? Should I explain?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So here we have a question. So imagine you are working in an educational institution where people are of equal status. Which method of communication is best suited and normally employed in such a context? Yeah, it's a horizontal. So because people are communicating with equal status. So it is horizontal communication. Yes, you're all right. And then now we'll proceed with the levels of communication. So here we have different levels. It is intra, inter, group communication, public, and mass communication. So please be clear with this because a scenario can be given and asked which type of communication is this and understand these terms. So first we'll start with intrapersonal communication. So intra, in essence, within oneself. So whenever a person communicates with themselves, that is called as intrapersonal communication. So it is making a decision or reflecting one's own decision and introspecting themselves and analyzing a situation that is happening around themselves and making themselves comfortable with the situation. So anything which we think within ourselves, we think about ourselves or the situation which happens ourselves around ourselves, it is called as intrapersonal communication. It can be a dream, even the dream what we dream and meditation what we do, all these things comes under intrapersonal. And then inter, it is between two people. So this can be planned or unplanned. So whenever two people is involved in a communication, it is called as interpersonal communication. So intra in a sense within oneself, inter is between two people, and group communication. So group communication is happening between a group. That group can be 3 or more members. So please be clear. Group communication means it is about a group. That group can consider 3 or more members. And this can be formal or informal. And for example, so parties, company parties, or group project discussion and team building events, all these things comes under a group communication. So for example, an activity conducted in a class within a group of people. So in a class, we'll segregate them as in groups, right? So that kind of activity that is happening is called as group communication. And public communication. So please be clear. This public communication will have selective audience. And it can be again formal or informal. For example, a seminar conducted or the press conference, political campaigns, and a public speaking events. Selective audience presence. Here, whenever a seminar is being conducted, if a max related seminar is being conducted, then their audience is the max people, the master holders, master degree holders of max, or the degree holders of max, the faculties of max will be the selective audience. So that kind of thing, when the audience will be large, but still they will be selective audience. That kind of thing is called as public communication. The audience will be selective. And then mass communication. So mass is the larger audience. So there will be no personal contact. For example, radio, social media, advertising, journalism, newspaper, television, film, print media, books, and magazines. So here, mass media. So see, we cannot determine or limit the person. This is the person who is going to read this newspaper, or this is the person who is going to listen to the radio news. This is the person who will, these are the people, this part of people will listen or use the social media. We can't limit anybody. So it is random and it is wide. The audience are very, very large. Anybody can access an social media or can watch a television or use a book. All these things, we cannot limit the audience. So this audience is larger. This is called mass media. When an audience is being selective audience, it is public. And when the audience is large, it is mass. Yeah. Intrapersonal is speaking with ourselves. Dreaming It happens within ourselves. So it is intrapersonal. And I hope you are understood this public and mass communication. And now classroom communication. This is well-known topic, right? So it is any communication that occurs inside a classroom between a teacher and a student. This is called the classroom communication. So classroom is a place where social identity is being taught. And here in a classroom, the feedback will be immediate. So whenever a teacher discusses a topic in the class, and at the end of the class, there will be some questions for the students, right? So this kind of thing is having an immediate feedback. And a teacher is the person who inculcates all these values. It could be economic, social, or cultural values. So this is what the thing happening inside a classroom is called as classroom communication. So now we are having a question. So the organizational communication can also be equated with organizational communication. Is
Mass
it can
communication.
Yeah, it's option C. It is group communication. Yes, it is group. Organization is, they will have few members in an organization, right? So the audience will not have a larger audience. Mass communication. It is not it is group communication. It is right. And then the another question. So which of the following are the criteria for public communication? So it is personal bias, ideological slant, accuracy, comprehensiveness, separation of opinion and facts. What is the criteria for public communication?
Option 2.
Option 2,
Option 2.
ideological slant. So should we impose our ideology in an public communication? Is it right?
Option 4, ma'am. ADE, personal bias.
For personal bias, should we take personal bias in communication? No, bias should not
Option
come in any communication.
PD.
Option 3.
PD.
Option, yeah, it is C, D, and E. So whenever a communication it happens in a public, so we have larger audience, right? Selective audience, public communication essence. So it must be accurate, comprehensiveness. The person should understand the communication, and there must be a separation between the opinion and the fact. In a seminar, we can't tell this is what it is right. So your opinion cannot be imposed in a seminar, conferences, and all those things, right? In a selective audience. So there must be a separation between the opinion and the facts. So any communication, personal bias, and the ideological slant. Your ideology you cannot impose in any communication. Okay, don't confuse with that. So it must be accurate, comprehensive, and separation of opinion and facts. It is option 3, C, D, E. Okay, is it clear? From the communication viewpoint, which one of the following is a cultural institution? Is it 3? Cultural, I'm speaking about culture. Yeah, it's 4. Family is the place
Family.
where the culture can be inculcated. Yeah, it's 4. Good. So we'll get into another topic. Yeah, it's family. So now we are getting into an effective communication. So effective communication, it is something where communication occurs, and if that receiver have understood the message, that is called effective communication. For example, now we are communicating about communication. So if you people have understood this unit communication, and if you have understood and taken some points from this, and if this session is effective, if you have understood, then this communication which are occurring here is effective communication. If you people have understood whatever I'm telling, then that is effective communication. So can you understand what is effective communication? Understanding the thing what I am sharing, what our sender tells the receiver, if he or she is able to understand, then it is called as effective communication. For this effective communication, we have lots of barriers like linguistic, cultural, psychological, physical, emotional, organizational, and interpersonal communication. Interpersonal barriers. So first we'll discuss about linguistic barrier. So linguistic in essence, as you have seen before, the semantic noise, right? The same is linguistic barrier. So whenever there comes an problem with the language in communication is called as linguistic barrier. Since the language is the primary tool for a communication, whenever a person is not aware about a language, or if a difficult jargon is being used in a communication, Or in India, since it is diverse, we have lot of languages. Each region, each few kilometers, they'll have some slangs to speak. So that slang, even some people will not be, other region people will not be able to understand. So that kind of words, when it is being used in an communication, it will make a barrier for the receiver to receive. Is it clear? So the communication, the languages or the difficult terms, for example, idioms and phrases, if that is being used inside a communication, if a cat is on the wall, if I'm telling, so cat is on the wall, listen, the general meaning is cat is on the wall. But in an idioms and phrases, sorry, in an idioms and phrases, the cat can jump. It is a temporary thing which is on the wall. It can jump on either. It is an people cannot trust that kind of people. So that is what it means. So if an untechnical person, or if it is said in a mass media, so few people only they will be able to know what is cat on the wall. So that kind of things will make a barrier for the people who are unknown about that thing. So that will be a linguistic barrier. So using difficult terms, unknown terms, and the regional language, if it is being used in a communication, it will affect the effective communication. And cultural barrier. So still India is diverse. For example, I'm taking India. In general communication, so again, if there is a different culture, so each culture will have their own values, terms, their own culture, how they grow, all those things, even the dressing and the food habits, all these things will vary. So whenever in a multinational companies or an organization where different culture peoples work together, that they will feel the difference, right? So for somebody, their values and their culture will be right, and for the other person they would have not seen that kind of thing. So there will be a barrier. So they will see the differences, and sometimes they will hesitate to talk, or they will have some difference of opinion, right? That can also be a barrier for an effective communication. And then psychological barriers. So psychology is between a person's mind. So whenever a person thinks, so if they are having some preconceived notation, so if they are having some opinion over others, and if that will affect in a communication. And halo effect is the first impression. So seeing a person in one aspect or in one event and judging that person will be same in all the events. So that will affect an effective communication. And the relationship, if a person is having poor attention and retention capacity, if a person is not at all willing to listen, if he or she is have closed their minds, then that communication will not be effective. Whatever you're trying to tell, if somebody has closed their mind, it will affect our communication. And then the state of health. So if somebody is not well, they will not be able to listen what we are telling. So all these things comes in a psychological barriers and physical barrier. So anything that is physically present around us, if all those things, if it is creating an disturbance in our communication, even the distraction which is being laid by the physical thing around us, the poor lighting, or even the body movement of a person, and then even a cup of tea which is arriving in between and communication can also affect that communication effectiveness, because that receiver will suddenly divert his mind from the communication to see that cup of coffee, right? So that even can interrupt the communication. So all those things, the noise that has been occurring in a place. Sometimes when we are writing or we are in a classroom, so that loudspeakers around the colleges or classrooms, that can affect the people which when the class is been happening, or the environment which we are around. So any kind of thing, physical barriers which is happening, that is called as physical barrier. And emotional barrier. So when a person is emotional, it will affect their communication. So he or she will not be able to communicate properly. So a person who is emotionally mature will be able to communicate effectively. So when a person is emotional, he or she will not be able to communicate. So that will make blur the decision making. So any anger, frustration, or humor, it will affect our decision making. With that emotion, we'll make a decision and we'll make a communication. So that will affect the effectiveness of the communication. And then organizational barrier. So when you are working in an organization or studying in an organization, each organization, they will have some rules, regulations, culture, climate, and all those things will be there. So that also everybody cannot accept, right? Immediately, if we are going into a multinational company, M.Sc, and we are working, so we'll not be able to cope up or take all those rules, culture immediately. So initially it will take time. So in that initial time, we will be affected to communicate. So we will not be able to communicate effectively with everybody. So it will take little time. So that can be a barrier for communication. And then the cooperation. So if there is no cordial relationship between the superior and subordinate in an organization, then that will also affect the organization's communication. And then interpersonal. So it is between two people. Internessence, it is between two people. Whenever there is no proper channel. So if the channel is not proper, then they cannot communicate properly. And if there is no interest or lack of cooperation or trust, if there is no interest or cooperation or trust between two people, then their communication will not be effective. And again, if there is a problem between two people, superior, subordinate, anything, then the communication will not be effective. All these things comes under interpersonal barrier. And a question here is, which of the following is excluded from the list of communication barrier? Which is not in the list of communication barrier? Physical,
Philosophical. Three.
it is philosophical. Yeah, correct. It is philosophical. So coming back to mass communication. So mass communication, as we have seen before, it is about the larger audience. So fairly, it is undifferentiated audience composition. So here the audience, we cannot differentiate. You are the audience, you are the audience. We can't differentiate. So it is a larger audience. They are unselected audience. So this message, it can be reproduced. So whenever a thing is being told in a mass media, that is the social media or a radio or television, so the message can be reproduced. Everybody, it will be spread easily to everybody. So the message can be reproduced, and the rapidness. So it is very fastly, it has been delivered, distributed to all the people in the society, and the cost of the communication, consumers. So when we are distributing this message, then it will be communicated very easily. So, for example, if you are giving pamphlets, so in the streets and all, they'll give pamphlets, right? So we are organizing, we have opened this shop and that shop and all those pamphlets. It will not be circulated easily to everybody, and each pamphlet costs some amount. So when you are comparing with this mass media, just putting a post in on social media, as if we are opened and shop and all those things, that can be spread mostly, most widely, and the cost of that distribution has been very less, right, than the pamphlet using. So that is what mass media is. So the cost of delivering the information and the rapidness, speed, all these things is effective in mass media. So characteristics of mass media. So the direct message towards, it has been a larger audience and heterogeneous audience. The audience is not homogeneous audience. It is heterogeneous audience. And then there is no privacy. So when it comes to mass media, so when something is told in a television or a radio or in a printed magazines and all those things, there can be no privacy. It is a public thing. And the duration. So with the short duration, this message can be consumed by everybody. And the feedback is indirect. So something when we are posting in social media, television or radio, the feedback, it is very feeble. So there is no feedback mostly. And the cost, again, the cost is very minimal as when we are comparing with the other source of communication. And then it can be that source which we have circulated is belonging to an organization or an institution. It belongs to that organization. And then whenever this happens, this communication happens, as we said, there is no feedback. It is always one way. That is mass media, characteristics of mass media. So then here we are having the difference between mass media and social media. So mass media and social media, there is a minimal amount of difference. Here the audience makes the difference. Whenever the audience is passive, in television, radio, all these things, the audience will be passive. And in social media, the audience, they themselves are the center of that platform, and they are the content creators. They are collaborating with society, and they interact with social people. And this audience is being the center of the social media. That is called as that is the difference between social media and mass media. So in mass media, the audience is passive. It is one-way communication. In social media, the audience is kept as center. They interact, they relate, all those things happens. So the audience is passive. It is active in social media, and the audience are passive in mass media. That is the difference between them. And now we will see about types of communication models. So the models, the question has been asked in these models also. So we have linear model, interactive model, and transactional model. Yeah, public. What public? Our class comes under classroom communication. It is not mass communication or public communication. Classroom communication is, this also comes under classroom communication only. So through Zoom Meet, we are having classroom communication. Or else, if not classroom, it is group communication. Yeah, it is group communication. So first, we'll get back into a linear model of communication. So linear model of communication is which it happens between a sender and a receiver. It is one way. It is direct way and it is one way. Only the sender will send the information to the receiver. So there will be no feedback to the sender back. So this sort of communication is called as linear communication. Only sending the information to the receiver is called as linear communication. For example, the bank will send us some text, right? It is sent in one way. Please don't reply and all those things, messages. Or on radio, a news channel or something, they will read the newses. Only the information will be shared to us. We can't interact with the news reader, right? So the news has been read. So that kind of programs, all these things comes in a linear. So only the news reader will read the newses in a linear way and we will understand the news. So that is what the news program happens. So that kind of things is linear. Linear model of communication. And then interactive model of communication. Interactive model of communication is two-way communication. Here, it is an advanced stage of linear. So here we'll get the feedback. So the information is being transferred in two ways. This information can be an idea, message, or information. Anything can be exchanged between a sender and a
Ma'am,
receiver.
kindly change the slide, ma'am.
Yeah, I have changed it. Can you see? I have changed the slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes,
already
ma'am.
changed.
Changed.
Maybe you are having some network issue. And the interactive model is something which we have an feedback back from the sender. So that kind of thing. So for example, this email. So whenever a person sends us an email, we'll reply back to them, right? So phone calls, all these things, major of our communication comes under this interactive model of communication. And then transactional model. So it is something different from interactive. So transaction is where a communication occurs between an sender and a receiver. And this can be influenced. So the sender or a receiver can be influenced by the sender or receiver. So both can influence both people. That kind of communication, it can be a conversation. So the continuously the messages can be shared, transferred, and they can influence each people. So that kind of communication is called as transactional. So for example, two peoples are speaking face to face. Two friends are communicating, and each people can influence the other people by their body language, gesture, and all those things, right? Such kind of communication is called transactional communication. And these terms, few terms, which is not given in a syllabus, but questions are asked from these terms. It is connotation and denotation. So denotation is nothing. Whenever a word is there, they will have their own dictionary meaning, right? So for example, see this word blue. It is just a color. Its actual dictionary meaning is just a color. That is denotation. Remember, denotation in a sense, it is the dictionary meaning of a word. So connotation is something which we add an external meaning to that word. So a personal or cultural meaning is being added to that primary meaning. To that dictionary meaning, we are adding external meaning. So for example, this blue, it is also, I feel blue in a sense, feeling sad. So that is what it is connotation. So denotation, connotation. So words with two meaning. So denotation is primary meaning, dictionary meaning, and connotation is the external meaning given by some person. There is a personal or cultural meaning given to a word is called connotation. And then synchronous and asynchronous. Now what we are communicating through Zoom. So the sender and the receiver is participating at the same time in the same platform. That kind of thing is synchronous. people, the sender and the receiver are in the same platform, same time. So we can interact. The feedback or interaction occurs at the same time. That is called synchronous. It can be a conference call or Zoom meet. All these things is synchronous. And if the participants, maybe the sender and the receiver is not in the same platform at same time, if they are not if at same time, that is called as asynchronous. For example, sending a mail to somebody. If I am free now and I wish to send a mail to you people now, if I'm sharing this PPT to you through Telegram, I will send it whenever I am free, and you people, you will see that Telegram message whenever you are free. So that kind of thing that happens at their own space, their own time is called as asynchronous. For example, this YouTube video, emails, we'll send whenever we are possible, we are free, and that receiver will take it whenever they are free. So that kind of thing, which occurs at different times of sender and receiver. For example, it can be sent from one to many and many to one. So YouTube video is sent from one to many, right? So that kind of transaction can also happen. So that is asynchronous. I hope you understood this. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then hot media and cold media. So this has been the new topic asked in this June 24, 2024. Have a look over this topic, hot media and cold media. So the hot media, it is high definition. A high definition in the sense, the hot media that will give all the information, details, everything to the audience. Just the audience role is very low. So they will have a low participation in that media. That media itself, it will do all the work, and the participants will have very minimal thing to do with that media. So, for example, radio, movies, photographs, lectures, and print books. All these things, people will not have that participation. So, for example, in radio or television or a movie, all the information, whatever they are trying to tell, they will give us. In a picture, whatever thing is they want to tell, everything in photograph, it will be that. Just we are going to take it. That's all. That is the role of the participant. So that kind of thing comes under hot media. It is radio, movies, photographs, lectures, and printed media. All these things comes under hot media. And then cold media. So cold media is opposite to hot media. Here, only low definition. So the details is not given by that media. So that media will let the audience to know more, or audience participation is more in that cold media. So the audience will be given more space so that they can collect more details, or they will be more involved in that media. So for example, television, cartoons, telephone conversations, seminars, and discussions. So in all these things, in television programs like debates, so the television will make a space for that participants, and that participants, they will make their points and they will have a conversation, right? So that kind of programs in television. And a conversation. So in a phone conversation, we can't convey every message what we are trying to tell, right? It will be very short. So that kind of thing. And seminar. So seminar is organized and people will discuss things. It does not mean we have known everything about that topic, right? So all those things where in seminar, the topic will be given. The participants will have to discuss about that topic, right? So that kind of thing where the participants takes major role, and that media, that person gives very little information is called as cold media. So see this examples, the questions can be asked from this. So hot media is radio, movie, photographs, lectures, and print media. And cold media is television, cartoons, telephone conversation, seminars, and discussions. So hot media is where the participant of participation. Social media, it comes under cold media. So the audience participation is more, right? So just think where the audience participation is high or audience participation is low. Whenever the media is given and asked, think if their audience will have more role or low role. With that, you can answer. And then with this, we'll get into the question. So this question, it has been asked last exam, June 2024. According to Marsh, examples of high definition medias are examples of high definition medias are speech, photograph, radio, cinemas, and cartoons. So you have seen
Ma'am,
the examples, right?
option 2, B, C, D, photographs, radios, and cinema.
Yeah, correct. It is B. B, C, and D. Yeah, you're all correct. It is option B. Photograph, radios, and cinema. It is high definition media. And cartoon, it comes under which media?
Cold media, it's low
Yeah.
definition.
Yeah, you're correct. Cartoon comes under cold media. And then the next question. So when verbal and non-verbal messages are contradictory, said that most people believe in. So when we are using both verbal and non-verbal messages, when both are contradictory, people believe in which message? It is interdeterminate,
Option 1.
verbal, non-verbal, aggressive message.
Interdetermined.
No, it is non-verbal. So if you know, yes, indeterminate in the sense there is
Non-verbal,
no
ma'am.
yeah, non-verbal is correct. There is no proper information. That kind of message is called indeterminate. So nothing is given properly. That kind of thing is indeterminate message. So here, when a verbal and non-verbal is given, you people, for example, if a person is coming for an interview,
So
whenever we are,
we can see the gesture, how is
yeah,
setting posture and these all things we can see through non-verbal messages.
yeah, it's very correct. You're correct. So whenever a person is coming, first impression is very, very important so that we dress well. Whenever we are going for an interview, we dress well, we behave properly. All those things is making a better effectiveness than the answers what we give, right? So for any communication, when it comes verbal or non-verbal, non-verbal communication or non-verbal messages are taken effectively than verbal communication. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, heart media has a features of presupposition of interaction, providing larger amount of informations, a little effort needed for the interpretation, and less scope for the participation. So heart media.
Ma'am, option 4, B, C, D, providing large
Ma'am,
amounts of
option 4.
information,
Yeah,
less
you're all
scope.
Option 4.
correct. Yes. So heart media in a sense, the information is provided is larger and we need yeah, correct. It is 4. So we need very little effort to interpret that information, and the participation's effort is scope is very low. Yeah, it is correct. These B, C, and D is the correct answer. And aspects of the voice other than speech are known as. So in the aspect of voice, think other than speech, what it is known as physical language, personal language, para language, or delivery language.
Para language.
Yeah. In the aspect of other than whatever the words we use, the sounds what it comes from us, it is called as para language. Yeah, it is correct. It is option 3. It is correct. And the synchronous communication that takes place through which of the following technology? So synchronous, what is synchronous? First tell me.
Virtual class.
Same time and same platform they are using that, ma'am.
Yes, correct. So now
Synchronous.
tell which are all these things comes under technology which comes under synchronous communication.
Video chats, virtual classroom, audio conference.
Okay.
Option
Option.
A, B, C, ma'am.
Yes, option A, B, C. Video chat is where both people are on the same platform at same time, and virtual classroom is also same thing, and audio conference is also same thing. It is option 1, A, B, C only. Yes, you're all correct. And the announcement for arrival and departure of train at railway station is, so the announcement of railway and departure of railway stations at,
Sectional communication.
is it sectional?
Public communication.
So here the audience is selective, isn't it? It is 3, public communication. So here you'll have only the selective audience, people who are willing to travel in the train, they are there. So when we are communicating with those people, it is selective communication. It is public communication. Okay. Yes. And now, do you have any questions? You can ask me. If you have any doubt, if something is not clear, you can ask me. Is there any doubt? Is it clear?
Ma'am, can you explain the philosophical barriers one more time?
Philosophical barrier I have not discussed at all. It is not a barrier. Do you want me to explain psychological barrier?
Ma'am, I don't understand why there are no ego clashes in communication.
Sorry, I cannot get you. Why there is no?
Ego clashes in communication.
Sorry, your voice is not clear.
Ego clashes in why there is no ego clashes in traditional way of communication, she's asking, ma'am.
Yeah, in that ancient period, would they have ego clashes? Do you think? Few hundred years or few 100 years back, do they have ego clashes? They would have been communicated through their body language, physical and the economic trade that could have happened, and all those things only it will come, right? They will not have ego clash of communication, right? Those people, they don't have time for all those things, right? Ancient people, I don't think they will have ego clashes. So that cannot
Okay,
come under a
yeah.
communication. That can be a fight or something else. It cannot come under a communication, right?
Makes sense. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So you want me to explain psychological barrier? Psychological barrier is nothing but think you are conversing with some other person. So you think we both are conversing. So if I have something in my mind about you, if I think you are a good person, and then if you are communicating, whatever you think you are telling to me, I will think it is good, right? Sometimes you will not tell me good thing. You can make something bad for me or tell something which will not be good for me, but still I'll believe you with that first impression which I have over you, that can affect me, right? So that thing is psychological. um how to tell you, so with some perception, I'll have some perception towards other person, and that can affect it, right? So either it could be a good impression or bad impression, so that will affect the communication. So you'll not understand what the person is coming to tell. If an unknown person is communicating with you, you will not have that perception towards that person. You will just be blank, and you will just listen what he or she is telling to you, and you will just understand that. If a known person is coming, if you are having some perception towards them, then it will affect the communication. And some other things in psychological communication is, um, uh, um, if the person is ill, or if I don't have some time to listen, if I'm not okay with listening, all those things also will affect, right? For example, if I'm not willing to listen, and if somebody is coming trying to tell me that, then I will not have that uh, interest to listen. If I'm not having interest, and all those things can affect that communication. Halo effect. Yes, halo effect is something that is what I said before. It is first impression. So, for example, you take, I have a student, and I know that person can study well and write that exam. If I'm thinking so, if that student goes for an some other competition in an other college or intercollegiate or something, if that student goes, what impression I have is the student will study well, so he or she will perform well, and they will win that award. So that kind of thing, which is having first impression in one thing and believing that it will happen in other places also, in other scenarios also, that kind of thing, first impression, which I think it will happen in every place, is called as halo effect. And that is what it is affecting a communication. So thinking that person is same in all aspect, that having a perception towards that person in other aspect also, that is what psychologically is with your mind. Either you don't like that person. If you are not liking that person, if that person comes and tells you a good thing, even you will not understand, you will think he is telling bad to you. So that kind of thing comes under psychological thing. And spatial communication is something, it is communicated through the signals, as I said, no, the traffic signals. communicating with that signals or the symbols that comes under this spatial communication. Is it clear? So this theory, maybe I'll let you know in this Telegram group. I'm not aware of this, and I will let you know in this Telegram group. And is it clear about psychological barrier?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
ma'am.
other doubt? Yes, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So- yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sir?
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
PPT is
Thank
there,
you,
ma'am.
Yeah, we'll share you the PPT. Good morning.
Yes, thank you, Ajit. Thank you for your valuable insights.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope
Thank you.
definitely participants may understood about your presentation. Yeah, once again, on behalf of our organizing committee and the participant, I thank you for your wonderful presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, could you please highlight some important points, something else they are highlighted?
So important points in the sense you have to see about these elements of communication that order can be asked. And then these terms, what we discuss randomly, right? All those terms, something which you need to understand. So some scenarios can be given, and that which under which communication does it comes. So such sort of questions can be asked. So just understand all these terms that will help you. And models of communication can be asked, and this hot media's cold media is recently asked, and models of communication, elements of communication, and all types of communication, understand them, and some scenarios can be given and asked. This communication unit is merely about your understanding and practical thing with the that will help you in answering all these answers. So that is its important elements, modes, models of communication, and all the terms you must understand and answer. That's it, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. And continuously, we are receiving positive feedback for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank for your valuable and spending your time to deliver something. Thank you all. And participant, we have another session at morning 6:30, and the topic is logical reasoning. So we will meet on today evening. Thank you all. The meeting is officially signed off.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir.